Welcome to the Fabric of America, the podcast that celebrates small businesses and the remarkable stories that weave our communities together. We're your hosts, Melissa Otto
and Matt Banover.
Matt is a fashion designer passionate about storytelling through style.
And Melissa is a seamstress on a mission to make sewing cool again and inspire the next generation. We sit down with small business owners, artisans, and dreamers to uncover the stories behind their brand, what inspires them, challenges them, and keeps them creating.
Because we believe that behind every idea, every design, every stitch, there's a story worth sharing. So grab a drink from your favorite local shop and join us as we weave together conversations about passion, perseverance, and the power of small business.
Did you ever see, probably not.
Wow. What an assumption.
Yeah, well, okay.
You didn't even finish your sentence.
I forget what it was. I think it was Spider-Man No Way Home.
No, I didn't see that trash.
I know, because you're an adult.
Because there's one Spider-Man movie. I don't need 5 of them, but go on.
So in the Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, in the second one, his best friend is like, every great superhero needs like a guy in the chair, someone who's running the show.
Okay.
Like
a marriage.
There's somebody out there doing and fighting the crime, but there's somebody in the microphone saying,
okay,
go there,
like
go
Alfred
left.
Yeah, like an Alfred. You could have gone with that,
exactly.
But okay.
Yes. Well, I was thinking more of like a team, like, we're out there fighting crime. Well, we have our guy in the chair.
We do.
Our guy in the chair's name is Eric Strand.
He's a good dude.
That's a strong word, but
Matt, it sounds like you didn't want him on our podcast.
Yeah, don't you dare. So
That's a joke that will come to fruition.
I've been fighting
later.
Tooth and nail to get Eric on because Eric is our AV guy. So he does all the audiovisual. That's a little tech term for people who don't know. He does all of our audiovisual. Like you and I we ride on pure talent. That's who we are.
We're just personality.
Yeah, there's not much more to us. We're pure talent. But when it comes to the technical stuff,
personality cannot put together a podcast.
No,
I'll tell you what.
I wouldn't even know what to Google for like how to cast a pod.
No. All the technical stuff, all the background stuff. But the thing is that, so Eric is much more than our AV guy.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. Because he is also now a friend.
Yes.
He's now my friend. He's been your friend. But Eric is someone who also, as so many of our guests do, lives their values.
Yeah.
He walks the walk while he talks the talk. And so we wanted to bring Eric on to talk about kind of life from the consumer perspective of what it is that we talk about here when we're talking about sustainability and, kind of the guy who's not the business owner guy, and get that angle, really.
Yeah, how you don't need to start a business to contribute or
to find community,
to move the needle, to do any of this stuff that comes up constantly. You can just be a person,
right?
And shop a little different, throw away your garbage a little different, just those little moves. And Eric, like when we brought up this idea of starting the podcast, Eric jumped at the opportunity.
Which was wild to me. He obviously knew you. He didn't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
And so that like kind of instant bond and what it created between the three of us. And I go on to talk a little bit more about this in the episode, but it was almost something like I didn't trust at first because I was like, but you don't know me. Like, how do you...
Yeah.
You really are cool with like doing this for us? Like, this is a big deal.
Yeah. And you keep saying, you knew Eric. Like, Eric's been my best friend since we were 13. Like, you keep saying, like, yeah, he's the guy you knew at the barber shop.
Yeah.
But no, like, I knew that.
Yeah. Eric, is that a better way to describe it? Does that satisfy you?
I've seen him in ways.
I don't want to. That's a different label of podcast. But anyway.
But, like, I knew that this needed to be handled with care and somebody who could stand behind it from a value perspective.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just technical. We could have outsourced the technical stuff to somebody, made it work. But it was like, you need somebody who's going to be able to go with the flow in terms of the schedule, because all of our guests are small business owners. Like, they need to be flexible. They need to do this. And like having, Eric, who's able to give up his weekends and help with us, his weeknights while you and I are out dancing and doing whatever. Eric's there. With one light bulb swinging above his head, microwave meal,
tapping away at
the exactly.
Fixing us up, making us look good.
Working on these episodes. And truly, the number one thing that I hear about our podcast is how professional it looks and sounds and the quality of care that we're doing it.
And that is Eric and nobody else.
It's truly, we have nothing to do with it. We bring the talent with the talking, we bring the space.
Yep. But
having that look, and I think it's a testament to how much we care about our guests, how much the respect they are due. So, this is probably one of the longest intros we've done, but it's to the point of we care so much that we need to bring in the right person. And I was fortunate enough to have like the perfect person in my life to be that trifecta and make this podcast what it is and what it will be going forward. So, we were so honored to talk to Eric and sit down with him, and we're honored that you get to listen to him for a little bit more. And after that, you will never hear from him again.
He's going back to being behind
we're
the
going to whip him back behind the computer.
Behind the desk. But
no, his talents, for over a decade, I've asked him about video and audio, and he's helped out all of my crazy and wacky adventures in business. And he's helped me do a lot of video for Bards and like all these things. So like I wouldn't be here without him emotionally or professionally, any of it. So, and I know you two have enjoyed your time together at my expense.
Absolutely.
So please enjoy this episode with Eric Strand. Eric Strand. I can't believe this day is here.
Neither can Melissa.
I almost was going to ruin the recording just now, just so we'd have to start over. But
just like unplug your mic.
Yeah, just keep going.
Oh my God. So Eric is our AV guy. He's the wizard. He's the reason that this podcast
But he's a real wizard. He's not like just pulling strings. Like, we actually can't do this without you, Eric.
Yeah, no, like this podcast would not exist without Eric and his help. And
thank you.
The number one thing I hear, you probably hear it also, is how professional our podcast looks. And it's all because of Eric.
No, well, it's a team effort.
No, it's not.
The space is
You're nice.
You don't actually talk in this episode.
You're just here to look nice. We'll talk about you. We'll take it from here. Don't worry.
My video is just a still of me.
Yeah.
It's just like a high school yearbook.
Oh my God.
Actual footage of Eric.
So I have to give the listener the backstory that we have been kind of cracking up and joking behind the scenes about having Eric on as a guest. And I have always made jokes to thwart this effort.
Yeah.
So and now they're making fun of me that I would never allow Eric to be on the podcast, but that's not actually true.
For months, I'd be like, let's have Eric on. And Melissa's like, I think we should ask the janitor I just ran into. I think I could get like Bezos on, like whatever crazy option. She's like, nah, I don't think I can record that day. It's so true.
Eric's agreeing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Funny.
I understand.
But I was trying to give Eric just due credit that he really does everything behind the scenes. He makes sure that we sound good, that we look good. He helped me when we were like sourcing equipment and doing all kinds of stuff to try and get this off the ground. And so he's not a fake wizard like the Wizard of Oz, pull back the curtain and it's all baloney, but he's a good dude.
A team effort.
Thank you. We're good. We're good Three Musketeers. Yeah.
We're the
sure.
moneymaker.
Yeah, these faces.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was talking about mine.
Well, we know you, Diva.
Mine.
We know who you are.
Yes. So, Eric, let's hear a little bit about you. What makes you tick? What makes an Eric Strand beat?
Wow, there's a lot of ways, I guess, I can take that. I was just going to originally say that I'm from Connecticut originally.
Yeah, no. Don't care about that.
No one cares about that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've been working in video production professionally for 13 years, and then I also studied it at Loyola University, Maryland. At the time, it was Loyola College of Maryland.
Yeah.
Wow.
I forget if they have the of Maryland. That's sad, but yes, it was Loyola College, so it's still cool to rep that gear. So yeah, I started a work-study job there and got one at the TV studio there, and met my mentor at the time. He was 30 or 31, and just from there, just fell in love with it and kept going. And we'd spend sometimes like Friday nights. My Friday nights as like a freshman in college, we're just like learning like video production, but it's awesome. Yeah.
It's okay. It's to our benefit. Don't make fun of them.
Yeah. And then came back to Connecticut after college and started working at a local video marketing agency. And I've been there for, it was 13 years in September, which is...
Oh, you've been there the whole time. Wow.
Yeah, I've been there the whole time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That
So,
says something.
yeah, we do a lot of public relations videos. Our biggest client is a cruise line. And so fortunate enough to be able to travel with them and get
neat.
to see the world, meet a bunch of freelancers and make friends just through there. And
Yeah.
Nice.
so it's been a great opportunity for me. And now here we are. And I also am very much into sustainability. My focus tends to be more on less plastic and more kind of zero waste. I help out at the Chester Fair in Chester, Connecticut every summer. They have a zero landfill initiative where trying to divert as much as we can. And that's mostly usually food scraps and composting and just taking all that out of the landfill. So those are my sustainability initiatives. And I also try as much as I can to support local. And obviously that's...
Or else you're fired
Yeah,
from the podcast. No.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's like why that was. So when we were talking about having Eric on, it was really because, Melissa and I, you and I, like we had this gangbuster plan about, the podcast and everything. And then we were like, well, okay, well, we are like, we bring this up all the time in our group chat, which it's like the Zoolander gif where, they're banging on the computer saying like, oh, they're
the files are in the computer.
Yeah. And we're all dumb. Like we can make reels and whatever, but like AV, RSS feed, all that. No, that's not us. So
where sound goes.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I got a guy. And we met with you and you just jumped at the chance, but it was more than just your knowledge. It was more like you align with the values. And when we were talking about having you on as a guest, we thought it was really interesting because we talked to all these business owners. And obviously, you can rally behind a business owner and their reasons for why they sell what they sell, why I make all my clothing in America, like why it's important to hem a dress and make it last longer through generations. But like as a consumer going around like in your daily life, like
actually living it.
Yeah, actually.
And in the small ways too. I mean, like I know the Chester Fair is a big deal, but like that's a small way and a big way kind of also at the same time.
How many other people are doing that?
Right.
Yeah. And it's probably the most impactful thing that I can do. Obviously, individuals should do their part, but realistically, until there's a huge cultural shift and businesses and large corporations and states get their act together with stuff, is it going to really be a noticeable difference? Probably not. But at least with the Chester Fair, I mean, we were able to divert, I think last year there was 68% of waste out of the entire, everything that was waste, we diverted 68% of it away. So
wow,
that's pretty amazing. And I don't even know if you may know this, Eric, because of the work that you're doing. But Matt and the listener, I don't know if you guys know this, but Connecticut has a huge trash problem.
Yes.
We are about to have a massive crisis here in the state, and so this goes beyond state borders as well for anybody. But basically, we ship our trash out to other states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and we get charged per like the ton or something like that.
Yep.
what?
Yeah, so our trash gets weighed, we get charged, and that's where you have these fees at like your transfer stations and stuff like that. And so the more that can be diverted out of actual trash into recycling, into compost, into whatever, it lessens the financial burden on all of us, collectively. But at the same time, the reason why we're about to have a massive trash crisis is because I think it was Pennsylvania just said, like, go scratch. We're not taking your garbage anymore. And Ohio's about to do the same. So we're gonna have nowhere to put our garbage, basically.
Yeah, I had not heard that part of it. So that's fantastic. Great.
Yeah. So great. High hopes. But
Cool.
we'll start off on a positive.
Exactly.
But there's going to be other states facing the same thing, So do you send it to an incinerator? Do you bury it? Who's going to come along and figure out the trash problem, and how much is it going to cost us all as, just people being alive?
Exactly.
Yeah, it is wild when you watch like the movie WALL-E.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is a documentary.
Yeah.
Not a kid's cartoon. It's,
No, we
like
are
this. Yeah, we are headed there.
heading there
Like-
fast. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Like that was like the biggest thing in Buy Now. Did you end up watching that?
No, it sounded like it was going to make me too angry.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
You would yeet yourself off a building. Like honestly, it was like the most overwhelmingly
It was very
devastating.
overwhelming.
It was like watching Schindler's List. Like it was just like, what do I even do with how this makes me feel?
No.
Like,
Right.
It was just
It
wild.
seems so catastrophic. And I think you touched on that when we did our Moving the Needle episode, that it's hard not to feel defeated and then to feel like, well, what small action that I take, is that really making a difference? And yes, it is. So we all have to do our part.
Yeah.
And to your point about big corporations, like we talked about this in our filming with Mitch, that until it becomes not a trend and not a buzzword and whatever, and it becomes, you almost have to make it economically or monetarily sound for a company to do it, to get it to go beyond greenwashing or beyond buzzwords or beyond whatever and have an actual meaningful effect. But either that or we're all going to burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could argue that we already are. I think
Yeah.
movies like, I'm spacing on the name of it. There's one with like Jake Gyllenhaal, Tomorrow.
I know what you're talking
Day
about.
After Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Day After Tomorrow. Movies like that make it seem like there's going to be just one cataclysmic event.
Yeah.
You're going to wake up.
And
And
you're
it's
not
like-
going to wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like we're in it. I mean, the past 5 years, the amount of, 100-year storms that we've had, the current wildfires out in LA, like this is what people were talking about in 2000 when Al Gore did his documentary. This is what he was referring to. I mean, it's here. So
Slow moving.
yeah, but to your point, it definitely can be very frustrating, very defeatist. From a consumer perspective, I am conscious about it. I do my best, but then I go to Costco and I see someone the other night who's got, I think, like 8 boxes of like the 500 plastic bags, like, sandwich bag boxes, and has like 8 of them in her cart. And it's just like,
Okay.
why? Like, what's the point? Like,
Just put one of them over your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's take it back.
On that positive note. No.
Yeah. Speaking of trash, let's talk about your childhood.
Wow. Oh.
Well, like, so I
Yeah,
think
because you met Matt. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Enter me into your life. So let's, but like, yeah, I feel like, we're talking about all this, but let's get to like,
Origin
what was
story.
was this a part of growing up? Because some families grow up like in a big recycle household. I remember like, it was a big deal. We had the blue bins and there was recycling, I think so it planted the idea that it was something and it was a deal, but my family was definitely probably contributed to most of the waste with the amount of stuff we bought because of having 9 siblings. There's just the amount of stuff that my family had, but it was also, my parents did talk about waste and recycling. We did there were things in my life, like they couldn't take us school shopping every season because so many kids.
Yeah.
So we did so much, what do you call them? Hand-me-downs
Hand-me-downs.
and stuff like that. Like that was, and they would tell us like, the reason you're going to wear your brother's clothing is because we don't need more clothing. There's boxes and boxes. And it was like, duh. Why would I not?
It was just more from their, their own economic
and it
necessity.
Like, I like the angle of it. And I've never really thought about it until now, but I like the angle because it wasn't like, we're making the choice to be economical.
Right.
It was like, this is just what you do kind of a thing. And I like that kind of like set it into my head of just, it doesn't need to be choose your own adventure. I'm going to be a sustainable person or a wasteful person. It's like, you just can do these things.
Yeah, it wasn't political at the time because I even had hand-me-downs. It was just a common thing.
And you're the
That's
oldest.
all I do with my 2 daughters. They're one is bigger, one is littler, and the next, if it's in decent condition, the next one gets it, and the older one gets a couple of new things maybe to filter through. But even then, we go secondhand shopping, especially for kids' clothes, because why buy them new? You know what I mean? They're going to grow out of them so fast. They trash them pretty quickly and pretty easily. And, you know, but they did ask at one point, like, why do I have to wear this or why do I get that? And I'm like, well, because we don't need more clothing. We don't need it.
Definitely.
We have it already.
So, Eric, where'd you grow up?
So
What a pivot.
Yeah, I grew up in Norwich, Connecticut. I went to Norwich Free Academy, which some people say kind of looks like Hogwarts, but I was fortunate enough to be able to go there. It's not a private school. You can pay to go there, but for me, it was just like my public high school, which was awesome.
No way.
They have huge like art program, and I didn't do any of the video stuff there because I did sports, but
that was cool.
Like it's one or the other. I did art and sports.
No, I could have. It just wasn't. I did it in middle school. I did the morning announcements. In high school, I just didn't. But and then I picked it up again, obviously in college. But yeah, so I grew up in Norwich, left, came back to Connecticut, and then lived with parents as you do for like a couple months after college. Moved out, and then I've been bouncing around Eastern Connecticut for a little while now. And I just bought a home in Waterford.
Nice.
And that's been a journey because I really want to stick to our values and our morals. And yes, I could go out and furnish it with IKEA and furnish it with Target and Marshalls and all of that. But I'm trying to do things slowly, buy right.
Buy once, buy right.
Yeah, buy once, cry once. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I do want to plug, as a quick tangent, I do want to plug Reboot Eco in Middletown is run by a great woman named Yasmin. But in terms of the kids' clothes,
we're going to get her on this podcast, I swear to God.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Yasmin.
Every Saturday and potentially Sunday, you basically can bring stuff to donate, and then you can take stuff.
Shut
so
the
for
closet.
people with kids,
Yep.
It's like there's a ton of options.
I've actually been there, not even intentionally, but wound up getting things for my kids there.
So it's just, I mean, I want to get that message out to support her, but also like the sustainability stuff, but also like, I mean, it's literally free stuff. You just bring some stuff to donate.
Just while we're on that topic too, for the listener who is local, she is basically like, I call it like a refill station as well.
Yes.
So that's my main reason for going there is I take my bottles instead of throwing out my plastic bottles. I go there and I refill it for body wash, dishwasher detergent.
That's cool.
She curates every single thing that they sell in the store. They have shampoo bars, so you're not using plastic bottles. They're amazing. Her product selection is awesome.
I gotta go.
Oh, it's phenomenal. But you can get like your hand soap, your dish soap, dishwasher pods that aren't filled with plastic. They're just the pot, like the, actual kind of hard pods. She's just amazing. So if you have anything like that in your local area, like be sure to look it up. It's pretty. It's an awesome service.
Yeah, it really is. So there's also one in Mystic, Connecticut as well called, we'll have to put it in the show notes because I'm spacing on the name at the moment, but there's also one, the Ditty Bag. That's what it is.
The Ditty Bag?
The Ditty Bag.
Okay.
Yeah. DITTY bag.
Okay.
Yeah. Is in Mystic. But same concept, has bulk refills, a lot of similar products that Yasmin has. So
I never even thought that was like a thing.
Oh, it's awesome. Oh, I started getting laundry detergent from there too.
Yeah.
But not, and I mean, like a little goes a long way. It's in a glass jar instead. So I just take the glass jar and go back. Like, it's so cool. And so for the body wash, I literally had a body wash, like a giant thing from Costco.
Yep.
It's plastic, but instead of
you can refill
recycling it, air quotes, because we know, a percentage gets really recycled. But I go back there and she just fills it back up. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick.
And they do sell online if you're not local.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
But back to me.
Thank you, Eric. You're so funny.
So we did recycle growing up, but it wasn't any like big deal.
Yeah.
And even now there's actually things I still try and slide to like inform my parents. I'm like, well, you could buy this instead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or black plastic you can't really recycle in Connecticut. there's some rare circumstances you can, but black plastic for the most part you can't. Things like that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, but it wasn't ever a big thing in my life, like local, even like just style and fashion wasn't a big thing all through college. It wasn't until...
Yeah, it was always like you were a hippie crunchy, like you had no, like, you know, clothing that was eco-friendly was like for hippies. Like it did not, it had no like stylistic appeal. It had no nothing. It wasn't, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah. And I also wasn't even into fashion in general. Like it wasn't until, so I graduated college, Matt and I, 2011. Yeah. And
God, babies.
It was probably like 2012 or 2013 where I was like, I should probably start learning how to dress and start literally Googling. I'm a huge Googler. I research and Google everything before I do any decision, which
drives me up a wall. I'm like, just buy it. You want to go get it. You know, like you got to buy on vibes. That's my North Star.
Just a little bit opposite of what we do
but I'm
say,
just like, ooh, it's made in America. It hits all the notes I want.
Okay, I don't have to think about it.
I'm just like, I'm just like, I'm on it. But he's just like,
he goes down the rabbit hole.
Reviews of a pair of jeans.
Oh, I'm like I'm like you now too, because it also gives me pause before I make a purchase. Like, do I really need or want this?
Right.
Is it going to be worth it? I will search multiple outlets for reviews.
And that's even with Made in America stuff, it doesn't guarantee anything. And Matt's touched on it, and I would encourage people to look up Dye Workwear on Twitter. He has a couple threads about this. Maybe I'll try and remember to put it in the show notes. But just because it's a tag says Made in America doesn't really mean anything. You still have to do your research to see if it's even good, see what the reviews are on it, and things like that. So that is also some general knowledge that I wanted to drop.
Well, some other general knowledge is that the listener may not know. Eric and I have known each other since we were
babies.
13?
Yeah, like 12 or 13. Yeah, something around
that's
there.
That's wild.
Maybe a little younger, but yeah.
Yeah, so...
And for the listener, Eric and I are new best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt, you're out.
Yeah, exactly. It's my biggest regret is introducing you to each other. Our group chat is just basically me versus them.
Well,
someone's got to put you in your place.
I'm not a witty person, so when like Melissa just roasts Matt, I'm just,
hit him again. Texting Melissa on the side, giving her all my vulnerabilities. So our parents have houses down in Black Point, Connecticut. And so I grew up down there like every summer. And we had a group of friends, and then we met these people, Rachel and Melissa. I don't know. It might have been like when we were 10, and then the next summer they came back and introduced us to you and Chris.
Yeah, my brother. Yep.
Yeah, and I was just like, who is this guy? So
because Rachel and Melissa are my cousins. So.
Rachel and Melissa are cousins, and so we
not me, Melissa.
Yes,
just to clarify.
And so we had like this group of friends down there growing up, and for the most part during high school, Chris was the bigger part of our group. I saw Eric twice.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah,
like he would come out of the shadows. He was too busy playing sports. And I really don't know what you were doing. And so then AIM was a big thing.
Yeah.
And we would AOL Instant Messenger. And so we started to aim a little bit in 2007, graduating high school. And then we went to college. I don't think we said any words.
No, but I was very close to going to Marist. Marist was just coincidentally high on my list.
That's funny because I almost went to Marist too.
That's wild.
Yeah, and that was before I even knew.
Yeah. So I did go to Marist. I committed. And then it wasn't. And then you and I are the oldest of pretty much all the group of friends.
Yep.
And so college ended. And it was just us.
Yeah, September of 2011.
Yeah, we were like, everybody went back to school.
And you guys were, the cheeses stood alone.
Do you want to hang out? We're both living at home. And he lived in Norwich. I lived in Farmington. And we just became inseparable. Like he was basically like godfather to my children.
Yeah.
Like he was just like there all the time, watched all my nieces and nephews.
Matt has no children.
Yeah,
Exactly. Just to clarify.
Yeah, like he basically came over all the time, watched my nieces and nephews take their first steps, like say their first words. Was there like New Year's, like Christmas, like every holiday. He was literally Uncle Eric.
Yeah,
like
it was awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, most of my family still calls him Yui, Uncle Eric.
Yep.
Like
it's amazing.
Yep,
and because I grew up with, I have one brother, and then my mom
and he's got
and
this
dad.
family filled with people.
Huge,
yeah. So literally, Eric was there all the time. Like there are probably kids. Like I always think about it. It's so funny. I mean, I don't know if you have it, but I have, those uncles who are not really uncles.
Oh, tons. Yeah.
And it's funny because you always have them, but you never knew the origin.
Yeah.
But it's like we watched you become the
Uncle Eric.
Like it was like crazy. So so we grew up and it was so interesting because I, bounced around all these different jobs in fashion and retail, and Eric was just like, plugging away at his
steady
video
Eddie
thing,
over there.
and I was like, oh God, I got this new job here, and I got this new job here, and I got this new job here, and and Eric's
Eric's
like,
on the side judging you.
No, there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah, exactly. Like we just had very different journeys.
Yeah.
Both
Career
good and
journeys,
bad. But so that's how we really became really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, I think I don't remember when we started talking about like values and stuff, but it was 5-6 years ago, recent probably, like, cause it was more just kind of, I bought this cool thing.
Right.
And then it morphed into,
because it's always fun to tell your friends like the story about where you found something or the whatever,
Right.
And I was
the details
approaching it
behind
from
it.
like, I just wanted to wear the right thing, because my big thing was I always want to just feel comfortable and be right and not stand out, and like just whatever I need to wear to like
Interesting.
be
Kind
the
of-
right thing so that people don't judge
dare
me.
I say blend in, like kind
so
of
I
just be
blend
part
in,
of the thing.
I'm not judged.
Did you go to Matt for like advice when he was getting into the fashion stuff?
Every now and then, I still do, and every now and then,
a little bit. But Eric is also, I gotta find my own path kind of a guy. He very much is like, even if I'm
He's
like,
just
hey,
quietly
here's
on
the
Google.
answer. He's like, I didn't Google it. So
exactly.
no.
So it's not there yet.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
right yet. Yeah.
So he's like a doer in that
Yeah.
sense. So like, because I would try, but also I think a part of it is like, he's like, I want to blend in and be safe. I'm like,
You're like,
how?
hello.
How can
I'm
I cause
loud.
the biggest sonic boom mushroom cloud that I can?
Who, you?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
shocked to learn this about you.
So I think that there was that, but it was so interesting, us like kind of going around and everything. And then, Eric was there probably more than any other human. Eric was there during the darkest moments of my life. There were definitely some really rough moments.
That's what you do.
I think there
friend.
was definitely one day where I had like was hammered, and the next day I like threw up, and Eric had to clean it up before we went to like
Eric.
church or something.
Oh my God.
My mom, it was so rough.
Guys.
But Eric has been like, literally we're like best friends, and have been for, which is disgusting, 20 something years.
Yeah.
Eric and I are always like, we're not 16
Eric and I have
anymore.
been friends for 20 days. So like,
exactly.
I'm coming for you, buddy.
Yeah. So, Eric and I have like literally, talked all the time. And he mentioned, going on these international trips. We used to, before cell phones had like international plans, we would be like, all right, well, I'm leaving. Okay. We'd meet up and like say goodbye to each other. Because we used to go on these trips for like a month or something.
Yeah.
There was no data roaming or anything. It was like $10 a day.
Yeah.
You just leave.
Frodo getting on the boat to go to the Undying Land.
Literally. And I was just like trying to be your Sam. So that was it. But like now it's so good now that we're adults with like buying power. And I feel like we're like pushing each other to like learn more about what the other's interest is and the values and all of that. And like, I think that that's a very cool aspect. And, Melissa, you and I run businesses, so we're more concerned about like the bottom line and doing things the right way and making all those choices. But it is so interesting to be like, well, there are people out there that have jobs that can freely make the choice about where to shop.
It was really interesting because you're making me think of a story, because we are on a group chat together where, Eric, you came on and we're talking about like a boot convention or like something that you went to.
Yeah.
And first we got bent out of shape because you didn't invite us.
Yeah, exactly.
Was a jerk move.
Asher,
But
15 minutes of
anyway,
roasting.
Well,
Yeah.
I did.
But no, you didn't.
See them out.
Eric
We didn't see it.
Eric
ipso
did invite
facto.
us. Yeah,
it didn't happen.
We didn't see it, but so we glossed over that one. But anyway, so Eric went to this awesome like boot thing, and you came on and you were just excited to tell us about it and tell us about like the people you were meeting. And for me, as a person who didn't know you super well I still don't feel like I know you that well, but I'm like always impressed by your like welcoming nature and how much you really do like live your values and how much they align with, like, I just feel like everything kind of cosmically happened for us here. But you started talking about this and I'm like, he's like the everyman. Like he's like a guy with like a steady job doing his thing. And he went to a boot convention? Like, what? Like, oh yeah, I guess people do that. Like your regular consumers like are actually interested in these like niche things, but you had really cool stories from that. And you got to meet like the actual makers of these shoes.
It was a really cool convention. It was put on by the Stitch Down podcast, which his niche is literally leather boots and a little bit of leather goods, but mostly just leather boots, and has started a whole thing around that. And so it was really cool because it was all local craftsmen, local in terms of they're local to their community, but they flew in from Washington State, they flew in from Virginia, it was in Brooklyn, and just to be able to meet them, some of these guys have been watching on YouTube just repair boots and fix boots, and it really was all the benefits of supporting local community, keeping things out of the landfill, quality over quantity.
And young makers doing it right here in America. Like,
exactly.
Cool.
So it was a very, very cool convention, and hopefully I can get back there next year.
Yeah, maybe we'll get invited.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we always like, Melissa will always bring up like, I can't believe like Eric's like doing all this.
I can't believe Eric's friends with me like so quickly.
And she's always treating you like a new person. I'm like, you know Eric. Like,
right.
No, do you know? Because you know what it is like. I think like we've talked about how like in our episode with Nikki, like adult friendships and like meeting new people can be really tricky and hard. So the very first time that we met you, we were just kind of going over like the podcast stuff and like what ideas we had and what maybe you thought that we needed. And I had no idea if you were like doing this, but like I really didn't even think you were. I figured we were just going to get our own stuff, set up cameras, and like just figure it out.
I was like, he's gonna do it.
Yeah, but, and then you did it, and so the fact that your guard was down like kind of immediately, I'm sure from like having Matt here in this trifecta and just being able like you and I by osmosis to become friends.
Right.
And now obviously getting to just heckle Matt all the time is just the greatest. It's just the greatest reward ever. To be affirmed by you in that. Thank you. But it just, it gave me like, it kind of was a shock to my system, because I think also as like a woman and trying to make other like girlfriends too, there's always like this like weird guard up, I think sometimes amongst women and amongst adults, like, is there an angle here? Or, are you telling me everything about you? Is it the truth? Is it whatever? And you just kind of like, just ride.
Yeah. And I can be I am still a bit self-conscious about some of the stuff, like even telling people that I do help out at the Chester Fair, and even some of the people that help at the Chester Fair, like, oh, like you work with Kim and like dig through trash. And it's like, I mean, yeah, but like, so there is like a stigma kind of. And so I get a little bit self-conscious about it for sure. But I think, I don't know. That evolved. I wasn't into the less plastic until I actually lived in downtown Chester for a little while. And Yasmin from Reboot Eco was in downtown Chester. She had a location there. It has since closed. She now has a pickup location there though. And she and I just really hit it off, and that was like super cool. And so she definitely like advanced my interest.
She kind of pulls you into the passion for sure.
But I think it came out of wanting to learn how to dress, then wanting quality clothing over quantity. And then from there, that just naturally kind of led to sustainability. And just, I think there is a perfectionist side of me with.
No.
Yeah. Side? You mean the whole thing?
Yeah. So for the listener, Eric constantly is like, I think that's just my perfectionism getting in the way. And we're like, yes, Eric, yes, just let it go.
do it.
Like done is better than perfect sometimes.
Yeah.
But Eric's really good.
Yeah.
That means you have more of an eagle eye, I think, for detail. So
yeah,
in all things.
But also hence all the Googling and researching. And
Right.
so, yeah, it just kind of evolved from definitely the clothing and evolved out to like just less plastic and composting food scraps and all that stuff. But as a consumer, going back to the boot convention, one of the huge things, and basically the main reason I went, was because they had probably a dozen different boot makers there that you could try the boots on. Because as a consumer, it is very difficult to support local places that you hear about, like
when
Washington.
It's only online.
Yeah, Washington State is a massive hub for quality boot makers, tons of Northwestern boot makers out there, but they don't really sell in stores. Like you can just go down and like try a pair on.
Yeah.
So some of them do the, you can try it on, like
And send
free returns.
Yep.
If you wanted to get into the, be a perfectionist, it's like, okay, now you're dealing with like emissions, which at times, I mean, I
sometimes
do that
you just
gotta
gotta
do it. Yeah.
And the trade-off is then you still supporting local. You know what I mean? A little guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and Matt's alluded to it in past episodes where there's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's impossible to be 100%.
You can't be perfect.
Yeah.
But so again, from that consumer perspective, it was awesome to be able to like try all these different makers on at once without having to buy
take
all
a
these
couple
different
notes
places.
back to the
Spend
house. Yeah.
$5,000 on boots. And
I've done it. I think I've told that story in a past episode where I've like bought.
Spender?
Well, no, I mean, like I like threw it on a credit card and bought a ton of stuff, had it delivered just so I could try it all on and then ship everything. And I feel guilty, but at the same time, at least it was one big, massive shipment instead of like 50 little ones. But
from
it's
Amazon,
hard.
that would be like 45 different packages.
Yeah, it would.
10 different
Exactly.
and everything.
Yeah. And Amazon, like I try, because we use it at work and I try not to, but when I have to, I try to get the option where it's like deliver fewer packages at once.
yeah.
But even like Amazon themselves is like making that just harder to do. Like we're pushing that for a while. And now they're like, nah, which is frustrating. But
Yeah. I wanted to ask, like, so when you're shopping, when you're doing this, like, what are your values of, like, what's rewarding when you go to the boot convention or like when you're taking out the trash or stuff? Like, I get that, okay, it's good, makes you feel good or whatever, all that stuff. But like, what is it in you? What's it tapping into?
Self-preservation.
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a great question. I feel like it goes back to that, just keeping something out of a landfill, even
Like a social responsibility.
a social responsibility. Yeah.
But like, what's that social responsibility? So like, I'll give you an example. So
To
for
not
me,
implode the planet, Matt.
when
God.
I buy stuff,
Yeah.
I feel like my web of connections in my life is getting bigger. Like, I feel like I'm attached to that person's story. Like, I've talked about this word a lot, sonder, where you just know, like, a stranger has a complex life. So if I buy something that a local person made, I'm a part of their crazy wild life, their marriages, their kids, where they went to college, when they tripped going up the stairs, like their whole life led them to this moment where they made a thing and then I bought it, and I feel with every purchase, our lives are a little bit closer.
That is very deep.
No, I
thinking.
swear.
I believe you. I
and
genuinely
I swear to
believe
God,
you.
like, that is truly like my values are story and integration. I don't want to do anything unless I want to be a part of their story, unless I want their story to be a part of me. I mean,
that's funny.
Most of the last 6-7 years since we've been talking about values, I mean, like when Eric comes over, it's basically like show and tell for the
Yeah.
first couple minutes. I'm like,
Yeah.
look at this thing I bought, and it's from this, and look at this thing I got, and it's from this, and look at this thing. It's just like, I'm so excited to show. It's
Very
almost
proud.
like an art gallery
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
my life. I'm like, look at what this means to me.
Okay.
And I feel like every little bit of what I've got makes me a part of their life and them a part of my life. And that's how I try. That's my North Star. Those are my values, a part of it. And I don't want to spend my money that I spent my life, minutes, days, hours of my life, accumulating this money.
Mhm.
It is a doorway to become a part of their life. So that's what fuels me. I feel so, my cup is so full when I support a business in some way, one capacity or something that's important to me. So like there's intangible stuff rather than just saving the planet or something. Like there's a joy, there's like it gets to your core emotions when you buy. Like, have you thought about that? Is that on your radar? Because I've done work to figure this out.
Yeah.
So like I get that if people just hadn't really thought about that.
I would agree with you that that's probably sort of the same values of where I'm coming from, because I will buy from around the country, and it's not like I necessarily say I can have a connection one-on-one with someone there, but certainly there is, yes, it is about the connection, about the story, about where this guy created this, or just, but even at the boot convention, just meeting the guy who was like, I've been watching you repair boots, like just having that connection, even though I've never had to do any personal work. So it is about connection and
Yeah. You let them know that they're seen.
Yeah.
yeah. And I think
You
it's
are
just
one person who's actually seen
Yeah.
or watched their channel or whatever. Yeah.
So there's probably
Interesting.
other values deeper than that, but I do think it is.
Man, I got to do some work on myself.
Yeah. This is an intervention.
But it is about the, the sustainability and just the quality overall. And like, I think one of my like prized possession at the moment was, for years, I was on a furniture forum that I would learn from that was run by a guy also in Virginia, coincidentally. And he was just into kind of the same values of quality and like how there's just so much terrible furniture out there nowadays. And unfortunately he just retired. So he was closing his business down, but he was having crazy liquidation sales. And so I was very fortunate to be able to buy from him a chair, a Braddington Young full leather chair, super quality
Nice.
leather chair,
Yeah.
made in
Sick.
USA. Like, and just be able to afford that from him and be able to buy from him just after
It's
years
a piece of that.
yeah,
of
but
his
after
story,
years of
really.
like gathering knowledge from
Yeah.
him and kind
Yeah.
of being able to be like, hey, like I'm
That's
so
cool.
happy I was able to like at least buy something from you.
Yeah.
Super bummed you're like you're closing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But super stoked that I'm able to buy something from you.
That's awesome.
That's really
So-
cool.
Yeah. The chair's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've
And
seen
so
it.
it's from, but yeah, that same type of thing, just connection.
Yeah.
So
That's
interesting.
so that, you know, what's so funny is like, I don't know. We've talked about this a couple times, but I think hearing the way you don't really want to be out in public, like seen, like noticed in public, you're also helping rooting through garbage while the rest of the event is going on.
Yeah.
You're also like spending years like doing research and then making the purchase. It's almost like you just like want to be a part, like the adhesive to like everything, which I think is cool. It's like working in the shadows or like videoing, you know, the thing in front of the camera is the star, but you're the one doing the
Yeah.
work behind. So that's like a common theme through everything that you're doing is like the support.
absolutely. And that ties back to kind of my sports career as well. In high school, I played basketball and lacrosse. I played more lacrosse. Basketball, I was basically a bench player. I didn't play very much, but I did play and make the team all 4 years. But it was just because I liked being on the team and being part of something. And that was a huge thing graduating high school and then college was you graduate, here's your diploma.
Bye.
Like you don't
Yeah.
belong to anything
Yeah.
anymore. You're not a part of a team, a school. I mean, there's not even, depending on where you go, a town. It's not like you can be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm from this town.
Yeah.
And I've always thought, it just blows my mind. Like, I don't know how pro and Olympic athletes deal with that. Like, this one thing your whole life, and now it's just like
Gone.
Like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I always loved being a part of a team and just having that camaraderie, just feeling a part of something.
Yeah.
I want to bring up this topic. That's a good segue. And it's something that's come up. It's been a theme in our podcast. And I've yet to bring it up with the right person, but it's something you and I talk about all the time. Being an adult.
I was like, where's he going
I
with
didn't know
this?
either.
Yeah, the look
And
on your face.
how wild it is that we
Yeah.
are adults.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And
A little bit of a mind screw.
Yeah, like,
I don't like it.
imposter syndrome and
Oh,
all
yeah.
like all that stuff. Like I have negative imposter syndrome when it comes to my business and what I believe in. But the fact that I'm an adult, the fact that if
Oh, so that's where it lies.
yes,
Interesting.
like the little things, like the fact that if I'm in New York City wandering around, somebody could stop me and ask for help because I look
because you look like an
older.
adult.
That freaks me out.
Yeah.
Like the fact that if I'm in a grocery store, I saw this meme that was like, it was like when you're at the grocery store and you get to the register and you realize like you need an adult there, and then you realize you're the adult.
You're the adult there.
And it's like, like that blows my mind. And we
Yes.
talk about it on a weekly basis.
Oh.
Well, like,
It's all mental for me because in my head, like, my golden year was like 25, 26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my formulative, like I felt like I came into myself and
Yeah.
who I am. And
Yeah.
like everything since then's kind of been like a development of that, an extension of that.
yeah,
So as the person who's about to be 40 this year,
yeah,
I'm like, it's not that it's not true because I'm trying to deny being full because it's like something bad. It's that
Right.
I just don't mentally feel that connotation of like being wizened and aged
Yeah.
and whatever and like having
Yeah.
but like I have kids that I'm
Yeah,
responsible
look.
for. Like
Yeah.
I had to make sure that
Yeah.
I like
You guys have
registered for-
houses?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I pay my taxes and like
Yeah.
a mortgage and like I had to get my kids to school and I had to like register them for school. Like
I have a cat.
I
don't have
I have a
any.
cat now.
Yeah, you have a house.
I have a house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I remember.
But like sorry. go
Oh
ahead.
no, I was gonna say I was gonna tell you just a quick funny story. When we had our first daughter, we had you get all the stuff. Well, you guys don't know, but you get all the stuff, the baby accoutrement, and you have to put them in a car seat in order to take them home.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
nurse
yeah.
has to see you put them in the car seat. And so we had like got in the car seat, we had like
Yeah.
practiced, and then this baby comes and they're like, okay, time to take the baby home. And we completely forgot like how to do
Yeah.
anything. And we're like, they're gonna like call these, like they're not gonna let us take our kid home because, and we're looking at the nurse like, can you help us, please?
Yeah.
They don't, and like just like school, like you get out and you're done. Like nobody gives you a minute. We got home and we were like sitting there in silence, and they're like, well, now what? Like,
yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like I've heard that from my parents. Like,
it's so.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's adulting
Yeah.
and
Well,
adding
like-
new responsibilities.
Yeah, so that's
and-
what kind of made me think of it is because you brought up this concept of like sports and school and like
Yeah,
there's so many
community.
things propelling you forward in your life. And then it's like get a job and do this when you graduate. But then you get to this time where you're basically floating in
like
space.
limbo, yeah.
And it's almost like the reactive portion makes you feel adult here. I have the nice leather chair. I
Yeah.
must be an adult. I
Certainly
have
part
a
of it.
gray hair in my beard. I must be an adult.
Yeah,
I like that concept is crazy to
Yeah,
me.
that's certainly part of it. And I'd say over the last 6 or 7 years, and again, I have a therapist. I've had a therapist. It's
Shout out
crazy,
to
but
therapy.
Yeah.
Probably like 10 years at this point now, which also just that alone, I'm like,
Yeah.
we've been
Yeah.
talking for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Same
But-
therapist.
It's been just a
Same
minute.
therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
I've had the same one for a long time.
is
too.
insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am basically learning to develop these other communities now in my life. So when it was in Chester, that's how I got part of like Chester Fair and Zero Waste, but also Yasmin and that kind of sustainable community. And
Nope.
just trying to figure out. I also have a group of friends I had met at the gym a few years back, and we had done a few Spartan races together pre-COVID.
Shout out
times.
Spartan races.
Yeah,
we'll have to
yeah.
go do one.
Yeah,
Well, I love
know.
those.
I'm down.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you're not.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll be driving the van and
Yeah.
pick you guys.
See you at the finish line.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
So it is about, and this is one of my things that they don't teach you in college is like, there's no, hey, you're just gonna be by yourself. Like, you're gonna have to find your own community. And
well, I was gonna say, I feel like that to both your points, it's that we're so looking for the next phase, like college, get the job, start the family, but then what? Like nobody talks about the then what, because to your
then you
point,
retire, and it's like, okay, but there's
but
40
there's
years.
1,000 years in between. Like, and so even when I was like first starting my family, I'm like, oh God, this is what it's going to be like. And then I'm like, no. And then you hear about women who talk about their second act, like after their kids are in school full time, but then after their kids graduate and are out of the house, like there's so many different like micro phases in there that nobody tells you about.
Yeah.
Nobody like brings to the light to say like, this is actually an awesome time. You know who you are. You don't have business imposter syndrome anymore. You can fly free. Like there's so much in that middle ground, and you can make a meaningful impact in a community, like doing the Chester Fair or doing what, like take up a cause, be something to your community, like to your town, to your neighbor.
Right. You don't need a business to feel fulfilled.
No.
You can...
Or school,
you
or
like
a
put
sports
trash
team.
in
You
your
can
freezer,
do all these other
don't
things.
I put
Wait, what? Is this the composting
I put
thing?
food scraps
in
into
the
bags
yeah.
in my freezer,
Yep.
and then I bring them to the transfer
So they don't
station.
smell.
Every time I go to his house,
I know
it's
that
always like
trick.
there's
Don't make fun
garbage
of
in the
him.
freezer.
Don't make fun of him.
Yeah.
I know that
But
trick.
we talk about this all the time. You can't be 100% sustainable in 100% aspect of your life. It's not about that. It's about just doing little things. Like I feel pretty confident about what I do from a clothing perspective. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've said the word composting.
Right.
Like it just is not
it's not
never
in your
been a thing.
ether.
It takes effort for sure.
Yeah.
It's a job.
Especially if you're in a like Middletown, you don't really have a yard, and you have to look up a transfer station that even has that option, which is not many do even still. And but I know like I have enough going on in life where I'm like, I just don't want to get into backyard composting. I have a place right now where I can bring it, so I'm like, I'm just gonna bring it there. But there is a lot to what you just said. Man, where to start? Well, I don't even know if a lot of people probably didn't see it because the news cycle is absurd nowadays, and it made like ripples. But I think I sent it to you guys, and we kind of talked about it. But like the Surgeon General, leaving Biden's administration, put out this huge. His like final prescription, he called it, for the country was that people need to get back to community and back to local and towns. And to your point, you don't have to be a business owner. And I think the most obvious example is like volunteer fire companies are always like volunteers needed, and everyone thinks like someone else is going to do it.
Right.
And I mean, I think that for sure. But we've gotten to a point because of obviously electronics and devices and all that, but it's you can find that community that you might not even realize you're missing, like in a different way besides just owning a business.
It's so upsetting when people and for clothing it's the obvious, well, it's just one shirt. It's just well, I couldn't buy this one shirt because Paris Hilton flies her. I don't know why I brought up Paris Hilton. She hasn't flown anywhere in years. Kim Kardashian, Taylor Swift, they fly their thing, they go get coffee, their private jet. But it's like, grow up. Like just do your part. You can just be a part.
Everybody just wants to be outraged.
You don't need to be, a comparison thing or worry about like, are you doing enough or not? It's like, just start somewhere. And like a community can build. And it's something that we talk about all the time, where it's like, you used to have your local boot maker, your local hat maker, your local tailor, your local cobbler.
There's one in every town.
And it's like, we need to get back to that, community. Like I'm really fascinated and would love to one day help create like a third space. That's a huge thing that
we'll just call it third space.
Missing from towns these days, because now it's just work, home. That's it. No one goes to like the polo club to hang out, like yeah, whatever, cigar lounges.
You're so
like where
Connecticut.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, exactly. Like I miss the days of yachting with my friends.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but
get out of here.
but like honestly, like it's just we just have bars now,
Yeah.
which
Right.
okay, but
Right.
now bars have become just happy hour. It's like a thing you do between work and
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
what it used to be, which is like book clubs, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
It's like we need to get back to that.
Oh, absolutely. And because I'm from Norwich, I'm still a big proponent of Norwich. I mean, Norwich, if people are familiar with downtown Norwich, like it has now kind of a bad rap, but it used to be like It's a Wonderful Life town.
Yeah.
In the 30s and previous to that. And it's been getting better and better. Same with like New London. I highly encourage people to go check
New
out
London's
London's
great.
Bank Street.
Yeah.
But I have seen some of the complaints are that most of the things that have opened in downtown Norwich are breweries or bars. And one of the comments online was like, well, can we get something for kids?
Yeah.
So, which I totally understand. Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to Melissa's point of, so I just bought my first house at 35, which is,
Yay.
thank you. But that is now the average national age that people are buying their first homes at. But I keep telling myself that like 30s are kind of the new 20s, partially to make myself feel better about being in the mid 30s
But it is
and
true,
adulting.
though.
But I hugely am struggling with comparison that Matt brought up. So I'm working with that with my therapist. And
Well, just remember that Matt doesn't own a home yet. And
Yeah, exactly. You can always compare yourself to me. It feels great.
You're welcome. I just saved you on therapy. And
You see what I deal with, like in this group chat? Just remember that man has nothing.
roasted. You're welcome.
Yeah, wow. And now I've lost.
Now I
my
lost your train of thought.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
but I'm
home
also
comparison. Yep.
Yeah, so struggling with comparison, and also the next thing in life where it was like I definitely was the person growing up where I was typical just white suburban. Like I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna have a white picket fence, like go to school,
Yep.
get a job, have a white picket fence, and like
Yeah.
Retire
Settle
at
in.
65,
Yep, that's it.
and I, as my therapist says, I should all over myself because that's not how life is played out. And I still sometimes feel guilty. And
Yeah.
that like, okay, I bought a home. So now I'm going to feel like, okay, this is it. Like now I can start my like adult life. And it's like, no, like that's never, I'm never going to achieve
Yeah.
like
Right.
that. Cause I'm always going to
Not
be
a
chasing the
thing.
next physical
Yeah.
thing or like,
Yeah.
so I am very much working on that. So just kind of common humanity with the listener, maybe of you're not the only one going
It's
through
so funny that you say that too, because I would never look at you as like I'm the outsider looking in at your life and go like, "Oh, Eric, like he's not where he should be." You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
so that's
100%.
all. Like, it's so funny how we self-inflict
Yeah.
these
right.
expectations
we
or
had
these
this-
things that nobody on the outside, even our closest friends, would ever know or think.
Yep.
Yeah, we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and we're like, comparison sucks, but it also sucks because if we're honest with ourselves, we pick and choose what we're comparing ourselves to,
Or who we're going to compare
your
ourselves
point,
to.
Eric is probably always comparing himself to somebody who is doing quote unquote better than him. He's not comparing himself to me. If he did, it'd be like
He'd
an
feel much
easy
better.
statement of like, I am in a better place.
Right.
So it's like we
Depending
do,
how you
Well, but
define
it's,
that.
right, and that's when it's all
but
relative,
but
right?
again, to that point, you're like, well, Matt's got a business, but it doesn't have a home, and you're focusing on the business, not the home.
Right,
so it's like,
Yeah.
we're always saying, like, we're always
We're
making
very
comparison.
choosy. Yep.
It fits our narrative.
Absolutely.
But like,
Absolutely.
being an adult and
Yep.
like the realization, I think that's great, and like the stage of life that we're at is like how much time we actually have.
Yeah.
Like you hear all the time, like life is short. Life is long. Like,
And you alluded to that on one of the very first podcast episodes when it was just you two. Melissa mentioned that.
Yeah. And like, I think it's a beautiful point. Like, I always think about it from a sobriety perspective. I always think about the time I wasted. Oh my God, I'm never going to get those years back. And yeah, that is a fact. But I also think there are people that I have had years-long relationships with now that have never known me drunk.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And like somebody like Eric who has seen all of it.
Right.
I have now owned my business longer than I've ever worked at any other job.
Oh, cool.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those little
Congratulations.
things.
Yep.
Whereas like I still feel like I'm in the first
I guess
weeks
same
of
for
my
me
business.
Too. Yeah.
You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never
Those
thought about
little
that.
things where it's just like you think about working at DKNY, and it's like that was such a huge defining part of my life.
It was, and that was like probably one of the longer jobs that I had,
but
and was
now
very
it's
enjoyable.
like when you look at it, you're like, oh, but I have been doing this.
Yes,
you know, like
that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Time is fucking wild.
Yeah.
But to wrap up, Eric, I literally would like not be here without you.
Oh,
Like in any
bro.
way. Like in any way, shape, or form.
Love you, man.
And
You know,
Eric,
and
I guess it was okay to have you on this podcast.
yeah. She's like spills her coffee on the computer. Yeah.
Guess we can't air this one.
But like, you know, I really appreciate it because you really did, without hesitation, jump at the opportunity to help us because we don't know what we're doing.
I think it's another way for me to get involved.
Yeah, and
know?
like be a part of the community. And like that's the point, is that it doesn't need to be, I started a business. Like there's little things you can do to help. It doesn't need to be like, how do I monetize this? It's like, you know, and that's a whole nother conversation. But like you
don't expect to get paid ever.
exactly. You know, but it's like you can just do things and who knows what they'll turn into. But like just do
it.
something.
Do it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us are just waiting for that opportunity to be beckoned.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes, you know, you just got to act and do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Are there
100%.
any kind of last minute things you want to leave with the listener?
No, I would say, again, as a consumer, that you can't, like, none of us are going to be 100% perfect, but try, like, for me, again, it's like less plastic and composting. Like, maybe there's something where you pick something in your life where, like, I'm going to get pants that are at least, like, research a little bit more into them. I mean, I don't have my, like, a business or anything. I'm on Instagram at Strand Doctor because that was my high school basketball name.
Yeah, it was.
I think it's because I was like the nerd on the team or something.
Yeah.
Is where I have always told myself that's where it came from. But so I'm on Instagram at Strand Doctor. I probably couldn't take on more editing jobs at this point, but like if you like had questions about
nobody's getting you but us. So don't
we'll cut that part out.
Nah, if you
communications
had some, like,
will be severed.
some I don't know, some video questions, tech questions, like for the whatever. I mean, feel free to DM me and I'll try my best to help you out. Because I do enjoy helping and teaching, and
you're a good guy.
Helped us.
No, this is fun. It's unfortunate this episode won't see the light of day.
Get back behind the computer.
Exactly. That's my rightful place.
Go back to the desk.
Well, Eric, but thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you.
And just like you as a person, you know, I love you, man. You really are my best friend. And
likewise, love
For
you guys,
now.
love you both.
I'm coming in.
Seriously, I've enjoyed the time that we had. I'm gonna hand you off
The sun is
to
setting on
Melissa.
that friendship.
No, thank you very much. Obviously, I love you, man. It's been a ride, and so many more years to come. And but this is a fun triumvirate. I think that's the word.
Yeah, I think you nailed that. Trifecta of
Legolas, Gimli, Aragorn.
That was perfect.
We'll argue that off
That
camera.
was perfect.
That was great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. And thank you to listener for tuning into another episode of The Fabric of America.